In this lecture, let's begin by initializing our API and setting it up. If you've not already signed up for your free API key at Coin API, you'll need to do so. When you've signed up, you'll receive an email with your unique API key. You will also need to sign up for an account on Parabola. And you'll need to create a Google Sheet titled Bitcoin Price Tracker. Once you've done that, we can begin setting up our API in Parabola. So let's log in so we can commence with our Coin API setup in Parabola. Upon logging into Parabola, what you'll need to do is to create a flow. So let's create a flow. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give my flow a name. So I'm going to title this Bitcoin Price Tracker. You'll find this as we work through many of the projects in this course, that I like to keep my naming consistent, and I like to name all my files appropriately, just so that if and when I come back to work with this file, it makes it a much more enjoyable and easier process. So the first step to working with our API in Parabola is importing the API. We can find that function in the panel. If we just type in API, we can find API import and we can drag that into our canvas in Parabola. Then we'll want to open up the settings for that function. As we want to get the data from the API, not post, we must select the GET request for this function. Let's now confirm the API's endpoint URL, because our API needs to know where to look. If we go back to Coin API and go to the API documentation, we'll be able to find the URL in here. Now, looking at the documentation for the first time, as many of you might be, it can be quite daunting. And as you're scrolling through, you'll see that there's a wide range of URLs that might not make sense. Now, as we're creating a Bitcoin price tracker, we need to look for a URL which allows us to access the data in Coin API. And that's what's known as the endpoint URL. And specifically, we want the assets endpoint. So let's continue scrolling through. And I just want to stop here for one moment. So here we have metadata, and you can see we have list all exchanges. So this here is an endpoint URL. Of course, it's not the assets URL we are looking for. This is an exchanges one. But if we use this URL, it will provide us with all the data that Coin API has on exchanges. Of course, we're not using it, so let's commence. Here we go. So here we have list all assets. So this is the endpoint URL we're looking for, which we can see here. So all we need to do is simply copy this, and let's go back to Parabola, and let's paste that in to our endpoint URL. We must now tell the API that we have access to this endpoint. The way we do this is by using the unique API key we received when we signed up to Coin API. So in Parabola, we'll want to click Bearer Token, and then you'll want to paste in the API key that got sent to your email address when you signed up for Coin API. So I'm just going to get my API key that I got, going to copy it, going to head back to Parabola, and I'm going to paste it in. Now, API keys are unique to you. If you were to publish this flow, the API key should be kept private. Now, if we click Show Updated Results, the magic should work. We should have access to all the data in the API. Accessing API with no code tools is so much easier than coding. Everything you'll ever need to know when working with an API can be found in its documentation. That's how we found the endpoint URL. Naturally, some documentation will be better than others. In the next lecture, we'll filter the data provided to us, and we'll filter it via columns, and we'll filter it via rows. Reason being, we don't need a lot of this data for our project. See you in the next lecture.